Hello and welcome to Watford United WFC.
Good evening and welcome to the AFU Women's Football Chat Show with me, Matt Crane. I've got two brilliant guests joining me tonight. I'm going to be talking all things football. We've got things involving Grassroots as well. So I'll introduce you, John, first. Good evening. How are you?
Hi, Matt. I'm well, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. And also we're joined by Ylenia, and you play for Watford Women. So how are you doing as well?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. So tonight's show then, as obviously we mentioned, we're going to be chatting football. We'll talk about Watford women's season so far in the Championship. And we'll get straight into grassroots football and all things coaching, things like that. So I'll start with yourself then, Leonard. Do you just sort of want to introduce yourself and then talk to me maybe about the very start of your career, so how you got into football and things like that?
Yeah, sure. So all started quite young. Always kind of had sort of a love for the game, just because it was, I come from a big football family, so it's kind of always in the background. Family be watching football, kind of like the go-to thing, play it in the garden sort of thing, especially at school, playing at lunch and break. But yeah, kind of started from there, and was lucky enough to be at an age where there were a few girls teams around my area. Where I was lucky enough to join my local team called Croydon Borough Girls. Started there at 7, 8 years old. And then, kind of wasn't naturally gifted, so I was kind of just, put at the back to do the dirty work because I'd throw myself in front of the ball and, run around, give it my all for the team and stuff like that. So, started at the back and kind of stayed there because I got pretty good at it. So and then from there went to Millwall, which is under 15 level, and their reserve excuse me, and then went to an Arsenal side. I was not really expecting anything to come of it. I was actually lucky enough to be selected for their under 16. So then I went there for 2 years, which was an amazing experience. Got to play with some unbelievable talent. I remember my first training session, I was having to mark Lauren James, who was in our team, like unbelievable player. Got to the FA Youth Cup final, managed to win it against my old team, which was again amazing at St. Peter's Park. And then it was a bit of a weird sort of thing. So it's actually quite funny because Arsenal is like pretty far for me, and that's where I'm travelling to Watford now. But after 2 years, it was getting too much with exams and just with travelling. I couldn't drive myself yet, so I felt like it was a lot of pressure for my parents and stuff like that. So went to the Chelsea under 21 trial, and got in there. So I'm doing the pre-season, and then I got a phone call from Chris Phillips, who was the Arsenal under 21 manager, and I've been training up the last season for a few weeks towards the end of the season. And he rang me and he said, I'm going to be Millwall Lionesses' first team coach, and I want to bring you over. So, all of a sudden I'm kind of settling in at Chelsea, but then this opportunity's been thrown at me, and as a centre back, it's hard to kind of find those opportunities, especially playing in academies for Arsenal and Chelsea. It's not, you have to kind of drop down at some point to get game time experience in that position. So I did like a dual contract sort of thing for a couple of weeks, and then I decided to fully commit to Millwall just because I was loving it, and really enjoyed that. Had an amazing year, got player of the season at like 17, so didn't really expect that to happen. And then from there we kind of merged into London City Lionesses, where I was there for 2 seasons, and then that brings me to now. I'm now at Watford. So,
it's quite the journey then. And obviously, you sort of mentioned starting out and going to, get that experience, and like you talked about potentially, leaving Arsenal. Is that something then you sort of encourage youngsters to do? Because obviously, like you said, you don't tend to see many from academies of like the likes of Chelsea and Arsenal sort of break through. It's quite rare. Is that something, you know, like I say, that you maybe, if there's sort of young girls watching now, would you say go and get that experience where possible?
Yeah, for me, it's something that I'm really grateful to have done is to kind of not get too comfortable. And I kind of, you know, looking back, as soon as I'm getting comfortable, and it's been 2 years, I kind of tended to move on and go for another challenge. So looking back, that's actually really helped me in my career, especially this off season where I didn't have a contract. So yeah, that was a really good experience. And for me, for girls who are listening in my position, yeah, definitely. If you need to drop down, even go on loan, to get that game time experience, I think that's everything. And the first in football compared to development football is a massive gap. So experience is everything, really.
Yeah, and obviously, John, sort of for yourself, obviously running, you know, the Get Pro Academy. Do you just want to sort of introduce that and talk to me a little bit from your side about that, and then we'll link that in with sort of developments and giving opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. Get Pro Academy basically is something we found that it's not around anywhere. It's not just your simple turn up coaching, take the money, and the girls go home. We're trying to show a pathway for girls from grassroots to academy football. I was lucky in the fact that when I was coaching a team, my team were very, very successful. We coach them as footballers, not girls. I think in our area, we sort of set the standard, and it allowed me to encourage my players to go to academies. And for me, it's a tick in the box if I lost my best player to an academy as a coach. So it would then, I would have to either get new players in, or I'd have to coach my team that I had left to just improve. And I started building up relationships with Chelsea and Reading, took the odd girl to Arsenal. And then just due to politics, really, I left the team, and with the agreement of the parents. But then the team disbanded. They decided that there wasn't the structure there, or the bond that we all had. And they started to phone me and ask me to coach them privately. So I thought perhaps I could do this. And in 2019, it was just a smaller scale. Only had about 12 girls. We selected 7 to go to trials. And we got 4 into Reading with contracts, 2 into extra training with Chelsea, and 1 just didn't perform, sadly. And because of that and other things I've done with them, I've now got the privilege, really, of coaching girls myself and just phoning them up with a list of names. And they take them for trials, whether they're out of postcode, whether they're oversubscribed. You can play yourself, but if you're oversubscribed, you get a no. If you're out of postcode, you get a no. So what we do is we're having a good run at it this year, and we're planning for girls to go next summer to trials. We've added Brentford, we've added a couple of other teams. Hopefully, we're going to come on to Lenny coming on board with us, and which is a massive thing for us. We do the coaching, but the players are the stars, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The players are the people that the girls look at. We've done a little bit of work with Marie from Birmingham, Marie Hurahan from Birmingham. Lenny has said coming on board, and this is the real X factor that the girls like. So we just try and add the normal coaching. I don't know if you guys are aware, you probably are, but to coach a kids team, you only need FA level 1, and that's a bit speak and spell for me. You go in and you're actually told what to answer because they just want coaches. So when I was coaching, I got my 2, and then when I started this up, a friend of mine's a UEFA A, so I got my 3. I used to go for B at the time, so I got my 3. So we try and offer coaching that's a higher qualification.
Yeah,
doesn't mean it's better, but a higher qualification than level 1, just to give the girls either improvement for their own teams or get them to that trial mentality, because it is only 3 or 4 spaces from 150 girls in each age group. Yeah. So it is quite brutal.
Yeah. So on that then, Lenny, I'll sort of let you talk about this. So John mentioned, obviously, you're sort of doing like ambassadorial work for Get Pro Academy. Do you just want to sort of discuss then the importance of that? Because like, John was saying, obviously it's important like that the girls have somebody to look up to. you just want to talk me through then sort of your role and, you know, what your aims and hopes are?
Yeah, well, I think for the girls, what I can bring, I guess I've kind of done the journey and I've kind of been through trials and I know what it's like. And yeah, I've been through grassroots to academy and then to, you know, championship first team level. So for that, hopefully I can bring to them and sort of, you know, add that sort of experience and yeah, help them with that sort of stuff. But yeah, so to get for academy, it kind of, when I first heard about it, started talking to John, seemed like different, and I hadn't really heard anything like this, especially for girls football. So yeah, we kind of got talking, found out a little bit more, and then what we're going to do is I'm basically going to be a part of a centre near me, so Kentish area. It's not confirmed yet, but yeah, I'm going to be working with that and hopefully get with the girls and get that running. And yeah, go from there really when it's all set up. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and obviously, John, earlier you were talking about sort of the pathway and the structure then. I'll let you sort of speak on that then, sort of how important is that? Because like you say, you know, it is very difficult and very competitive for sort of, you know, getting these academy places. And like you say, you know, you want to offer the best you can. You talked about the coaching, but do you just want to talk to me on that, and then maybe Lenny can follow up in sort of like how that will help, like I say, in terms of a set structure and a set way of coaching?
Yeah, of course. There's nothing around it like this for girls, only because there's no funding, as we know, in women's football really anyway. That's not being disrespectful, there isn't. And I know how little money goes into coaches being sent out to watch boys. And even Chelsea, they don't send anybody out to watch girls football. And I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of good players go through my hands. As I said, there was a girl that was playing for England, two that were playing in the England squad that were done their cruciate ligaments. Two girls I got into Reading in 2019. One's in the German squad, one still in the England squad now. You'll probably see her in years to come. I'll tip you her name. It's Gemma Woodcock. She is brilliant, honestly. And it's just, you know, I have a good relationship with these teams, but if we're being actually serious, they're only doing it because they're getting benefit out of it as well. They're not saying, oh, John's such a brilliant guy, we're going to let him do this, you know, because they wouldn't see these girls. You know, and all I'm doing, I mean, yes, I get benefits from it because it's good for the parents to know that when the girls join up. But these clubs would not see these girls. And for me, even if I get one girl in, it's incredible because, you know, it's a girl that wouldn't have got seen. And just this summer, we could only start in May because of COVID. So we didn't really have anything to do with Chelsea because of their trials. But we got 2 contracts at Reading and 2 at Brentford in a month of we were just doing 3 sessions a week, just so we made sure we put the right girls forward, because it can be quite devastating to them if they're out of their depth or they get turned down. You know, I mean, everyone gets turned down, but if they feel out their depth, it can be quite devastating. So you have to make it right. But yeah, that's all we're trying to do, is offer an opportunity to girls that they wouldn't necessarily have.
Yeah. Lenny, is there anything you want to sort of add to that?
I think it's a great point with what John said about no one comes to sort of watch girls' teams at grassroots level. And I actually, having a friend who was in the academy, very young, who's probably about around 10 years old, and I actually been playing for Croydon and thinking, oh, why don't they come watch us, sort of thing? And actually, obviously, you're quite young, so you don't understand. And the only way is to kind of, you know, sign up to a trial. And go from there. But I think, might be wrong, but I could only actually go to the Millwall one at the time because they teams like Arsenal weren't taking grassroots clubs at that time. So I think having something like Get Pro Academy, you know, it kind of breaches that gap and builds relationships with clubs like Chelsea, Reading, things like that, and just builds relationships and sort of, you're in their ear and you can put a group of girls forward and go, here you go, have a look. And yeah, it just kind of forces.
Yeah, I think that's nice, and sort of the vibe I'm getting from this, John, and correct me if I'm wrong, is, you know, like you said, you've got so many opportunities now And I think for me, you know, you mentioned sort of three sessions, and that sort of maybe as soon as sort of 3 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, was very rare. You know, I think back to sort of local clubs around here, and girls football, there may have been one team if you were sort of 12 and over, but there was nothing under that. Whereas you look at some of the boys' teams, and they're starting from sort of age 4, age 5, pretty much as soon as they can walk, they're kicking a ball. And I think, you know, like you say, it's great you can sort of get out into, you know, local areas as well, and just show these girls that actually, do you know what, if you work hard, you put your mind to it, you can literally go anywhere, you know. And if you take on the advice, like you said, you know, you've got coaches of that high standard, then you can really sort of, you know, build and go from there. And like you say, you know, there may be a time where, say, let's for example, somebody gets turned down by one club, like you say, because you have those contacts, you might be able to then build and work with that player and then say, right, well, actually, let's have a look and try this club, say in, you know, 3-4 months or however long it may take. So, you know, that's pleasing to hear, because like you say, you know, there's certainly not, I mean, obviously I'm up in Manchester, and there's certainly nothing like that that I'm aware of, you know, up here, especially in, you know, in women's football as well. I want to go back to something you talked about, Lenny, sort of near the start, about juggling sort of football with studies then, and sort of the barriers within that, because obviously sort of outside the WSL, there's not sort of, you know, clubs there offer support in terms of college. I think of like Man City, they've got links with local colleges, and sort of players are obviously full-time. But how difficult is that then? Because obviously I'm assuming you have to factor in maybe work as well as training and studying. But do you want to talk to me sort of the process behind that then, and sort of how you found it personally?
Yeah, I think when I was doing the BCC, I was travelling up to Arsenal 3 times a week. Well, 4 was a game. And yeah, that was really tough. Like, because, you know, that's a lot of studying, and I kind of get home, eat food in the car, and then it'll be an hour and a half to 2 hours sometimes to get to football most nights. So yeah, I was doing that. I actually ended up doing really well with my studying, just because I worked hard on a Monday and a Friday, which were our days off. But after that, obviously, I was going to A levels, and I was like, you know what, I can't do this. I can't do this traveling. And at the time, I kind of had a chat with the director of football, and said, look, I just can't do it. I can't keep up with it all. I need to have something more local. And, you know, she really wanted me to stay, but there wasn't really anything offered to me, and that was that. I didn't really think anything of it. I think there are things out there now, but for me, I didn't really have that option. So yeah, went to Chelsea, that sort of thing, and just that was so cool, and so was Millwall, so I was able to do my A levels quite well. But yeah, I think I know people who moved away. Obviously, a lot of girls go to America, which sounds like a great experience. But yeah, like you say, you know, a lot of people forget how this level. Sorry, you lost it. Is that? Yeah, a lot of people forget that even championship level, you know, all of us at Watford have jobs during the day. So, which is just a bit mad, to be honest, when you've got some teams who are training mornings, training afternoons. So when you think about that, you can compete, but you're at a massive disadvantage. So yeah, I think a lot of people forget that, and it is tough. But hopefully in the next few years, there will be some more funding, like John said, but there basically just isn't the sort of money in women's football. But I'm hoping that's going to change with things like the Get Pro academies and more sponsorships and more people wanting to get involved. I think the TV rights and stuff like that are really great signs. So yeah, I think it's moving onwards and upwards. So yeah.
And John, I'll bring you in on this. Obviously, thinking about sponsorships then, is there any sort of plans within your academy to attract sponsorships, or is it something you've currently got in place, or what's sort of the plan around that then from your side?
Yeah, we're always looking for sponsors if we can. We've got a couple of options of doing international tournaments next year, which are very expensive, obviously to parents, because lots of parents have more than one child, you know, which is good. But any sponsor, we can do some promotion on social media. We can promote the product. We've got potential big sponsorship with a sports company that we're just waiting to finalise, which is good, which will give us equipment throughout all our centres. We plan to have, once Lenny's opened the Kent one, which is very soon, We've got 2 more potential structures in place, one for Birmingham, one for Manchester, so hopefully we can pick up more on that. And then we want to open more in London. I really want to, I've got the bug sort of thing, as it were, now. You know, when I just had the one centre, it was great. I was doing it myself with a couple of my coach friends that were coaches, and we had the local relationships. But, you know, we opened up Newbury. I mean, I've got 42 girls at Slough, and basically that built up over time. But we opened up at Newbury, and we opened up with 41 on day one, and we've had another couple of weeks, and we've had the same level, and we've got the same looking sort of in Lenny's one. And I think it's just the attraction of something for girls. It's new, it's girls only, but having people like Lenny, I mean, who better qualified to show girls a pathway than someone like Lenny, who's been there, done it, you know, come out the other end with a potential career. I mean, I'm just sort of humbled that she's happy to come on board. You know, it's great.
Yeah.
No, I'm
absolutely.
really happy to be on board. I think just hearing you speak about, you know, the amount of girls, and obviously about interested in coming to the Kent one, yeah, it gets me really excited, and I just want to see more and more girls get into the sport and more opportunities available to them.
Yeah, I think, you know, talking about opportunities, Lenny, you know, like we sort of touched on before now, that it is improving, but how important is it now? Because obviously we look at sort of grassroots and lower level and access to sort of facilities and coaching, but can you maybe link that in with obviously when you started? Because like I say, you know, it will have changed, won't it? And it is slowly getting better, but what are your thoughts on it and sort of how it is progressing now?
Well, when I started, I remember asking my mum to want to join my mate Sam's team, which is a boys' team. And I had no idea that it was even girls' teams about. And she actually was like, well, let me do a bit of research and see if, you know, we can find any girls' football teams. And I was thinking, Mum, I don't know any other girls who play football. But yeah, she did. And, you know, I was lucky. There was, you know, we had a league, about six or 7 teams, not many. Yeah, better than, you know, the players who are older than me. They didn't have anything. So, yeah, I was quite lucky in that sense. But I think now there's lots more leagues, and I think in schools there's more girls football in schools, which I never had. You'd have to play with the boys, and at secondary school there was nothing available to you at all. So yeah, I think it is progressing. I think still more needs to be done. I think things like the Get Pro academies and stuff like that, I think once John and, you know, this kind of progresses, I think that probably inspire more to be created as well, because, you know, it takes something like this to get someone else to go, well, hang on, I'm going to create mine. And then suddenly you've got all these sort of more opportunities for girls. So, yeah, I think it's a really great thing. And hopefully, like I said before, it's just going to keep going, moving forwards.
Yeah. John, I'll sort of link back to you then. Obviously, you know, we're talking about, you mentioned sort of, you know, doing more for that then. And you talked about your plans in place. So looking at obviously boosting the profile, you know, and you talked about, you know, sort of being the first to do it and growing it then. Is there sort of any plans from your side then to maybe look at branching out to schools and obviously, you know, looking maybe to get people involved that way and sort of offering maybe things, a school environment?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to run before I can walk, but
yeah,
we have to act quick, if that makes sense, because I think it is, as Lenny said, it is a good thing, and it could be replicated, which is not a problem. The more opportunities for girls, the better. We do have plans to open up like the equivalent of FA Wildcats, perhaps for kids that obviously, or girls, I should say, or even sisters of the players that are with us at the moment. We do want to dot around the UK and, you know, even go further afield than that. We've got a couple of contacts in Europe and a couple of contacts in America. That is very, very early, but we've got the contacts, and, you know, soccer, as they call it in America, is massive, obviously, you know. It's I think it's the only country still in the world where the female national women's team get the same investment as the men. And been outperforming them for years, really, if we're being honest. So yeah, it's something I really want to grasp. The more opportunities we can offer girls, the more girls we can get into clubs, the better. But I want it to be structured properly. You know, I don't just want people to feel they're turning up for training and then going home. You know, we want to deliver, as I said, a pathway. You know, we can offer strength and conditioning, nutrition plans, fitness plans, mental health, racism, all, you know, everything like that, and basically help grow the girls as people as well, not just footballers. And but we need to have a centre where we can either have a pro regular like Lenny, or perhaps one that turns up once or twice a month. Clubs that are local that we can introduce to. You know, it's pointless saying it's great having Reading and Chelsea and other clubs like that, Brentford, but if someone lives in Kent, they don't want to be going around there every week.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just about building relationships, showing what we can do, proving to the parents that we're offering a good service that's worth paying for, and then introducing to clubs so the girls get all the opportunities.
Yeah, and obviously you sort of talking about that, like you say, you know, the opportunities and sort of, I think what's nice is I quite like how you said there, you know, you talk about the strength and conditioning, the nutrition, sort of, you know, the psychology, because that's not something that every club offers. You know, I remember, and I'll link back to watching sort of Man United Women in season 1, and we hired a sports psychologist, which at the time of the championship was sort of unheard of. And like you say, there's a massive, especially lower down, isn't there? Like we talked about the competitiveness, there's sort of a massive off the pitch, what should we call it, education to be learned, isn't there? And like you say, you know, going into things such as nutrition. I remember there was a time sort of I went and I was fortunate enough to have a tour of Man City's academy, and they left that to the parents. And some of the parents didn't know. They were like, well, you know, why do we need this, and why are we sort of, you know, doing that? And I think that's like you say, sort of you're there to educate as well as develop them as footballers, but educate them off the pitch, like you said, as a person. I'll bring sort of you in on that then, Lenny, sort of talking about the importance of, like, you know, the psychological things, the nutrition and things like that. Do you just want to talk to me about that then?
Yeah, I think the education of all of that, like especially going through your teenage years, is crucial. I think I was quite lucky to be studying PE and just interested in that sort of side of it anyway, that I kind of took it for myself to keep an eye on and learn about that sort of side of it. But I think, yeah, a lot of people would forget and not be educated, and that's kind of where you get to your sort of 14, 15, 16, and other things that happen in your life, and, you know, that's where a lot of girls drop out. So yeah, education is so important, especially with, you know, like you said, with the sports psychologists. I think that's so important to have that as a standard in every single club at this level, and even at the Get Pro Academy and stuff like that. I think because everything you do is linked to what you're thinking. So, you know, if you're going to a game with a mindset of, you know, you're struggling, even if there's something happening at home, you know, you're not going to perform well, and that's not even healthy for you as a person anyway. I think for me, talking about that sort of thing, obviously I'm going through something at home with my little brother Theo, who a lot of people have spoken a lot about it in the media in recent weeks. So that for me, being able to talk to someone, even if, you know, it's people at Watford who aren't even qualified in sort of sports psychology, even if it's anyone, we do actually have one, but yeah, even if talking to a friend or whatever, just so I can sort of go into football with a clear mind and, you know, and do my best and sort of be able to switch off. But that definitely wouldn't be easy to do if I wasn't able to talk about it or have the people come up to me and, you know, ask me about it. So yeah, I think it's so important, especially throughout those teenage years.
Yeah, and I suppose just sort of end on that topic, then you're talking about, you know, having that support as well, and I think, you know, it's massively important, isn't it, that people do speak out. And I think, like you say, especially when you're in, you know, an elite environment, and even not just sort of lower age levels, but sort of, you know, championship and levels like that, WSL. It's obviously, like you say, you're in a pressure environment anyway, without things going on at home. And I think it's good that, you know, a lot of clubs do sort of prioritize that, because like I say, from conversations I've had, sort of maybe as soon as 3 years ago, or even a couple of years ago, not every club has it. And I think it's just that balance between knowing the player and helping them deal with that, because, you know, that could be a reason why, for example, they may be struggling to perform either in training or on the pitch. And, that's sort of a big side of the game that for me, I don't feel enough people sort of talk about and look towards. John, I'm going to link in with you then, something we were sort of mentioning, talking about keeping girls motivated and sort of retaining them in girls football as well. How do you look to do that sort of from your point of view and the academy point of view? Obviously, we talk about, the nutrition and the psychology, but do you find there's maybe barriers in terms of keeping these girls motivated, say if they did have a knockback, or is it sort of mixed, so to speak?
I think with the trials, if we're specifically talking about the trials, it's down to, I would consider it my responsibility, but also the coaches, to make the girls aware that, rejection isn't the end of it. Don't get yourself down. 4 places from 150 girls is, and that's only because how the academy system's set up. It's in 2-year age bands. They have their FA quota for the number of places. So if it's under 14s, the under 13s go up to the under 6, or they go up to the next age bracket. The younger ones go up to the higher age bracket, and they can only really replace the ones they release, and it's very, very difficult. We explained to the girls that we would look at Reading, Brentford first of all, because my relationship with them means that they will accept girls talented girls obviously, but ones they can work with. Whereas Chelsea and Arsenal are looking more for the finished articles and go straight into the academy. They obviously want players they can work with, but if that makes sense, Just for example, the girl I spoke to you about, Gemma, she got sent home from the first round at Chelsea. I think that was a mistake. I'm not saying she should have got in, but I think that was a mistake. And we took her to Reading, and they told us it was the first time ever, but you don't know. But they're relatively new. She was offered a contract after the first round of trials. She was that much of a standout. So, she was really down about Chelsea. I'm like, don't be like that. It is all about talking to them. Regarding keeping them motivated every week, especially for the ones that probably aren't going to be going to trials, it's just about making the trials interesting, making it fun, but making sure they learn something, making it different from what they learn every week from their normal coaches. And I don't mean normal disrespectfully, but they're coaches. Generally, most of them are FA level 1. Again, that's not being disrespectful. That's what you need to be, and that's what people tend to stay at unless they've got aspirations to do more. A lot of coaches in kids football are just dads because the team hasn't got a coach. And a lot of other people do think they just turn up on a Sunday or turn up at training and go home. They turn up on a Sunday and go home. But I've always planned my sessions. I make them interesting. I've changed them up. You have to go there. You set the pitch up, put the goals up, put the corner flags up. Just little things like that. You take the goals down. Some parents would help. Some would want to shoot off. It's a Sunday or a Saturday. Roast dinner or shopping. So it's a committed thing being a coach. So fair play to all coaches. One thing we do push though, or make coaches aware, is that we don't actually set teams up. We don't want the coaches to think we're stealing their players. Go to an area and pick all the best players and then set a team up. Lovely. No, we don't do that. Obviously, we have to make them aware if their player gets selected for an academy, then they will lose their player. But that's the only way. So hopefully the coaches will actually embrace it because they'll see some improvement, perhaps, or a little bit of even if it's mental more than physical. So that's the way we try and keep them motivated anyway.
Yeah, fantastic. And Lenny, I'll sort of come to you then. Obviously, keeping girls involved sort of in sport. I noticed even myself, like when I went to high school, there was a massive dropout in terms of, boys and girls, but more so in girls getting involved with sport. Is there anything then in terms of girls football you think where people, like Get Pro Academy and sort of other coaches could maybe help improve that, to give that opportunity, for girls to have access to sport? Do you think that may be sort of down to access, or do you think there's more that can be done and more where we can grow and sort of like, say to these girls, actually, you don't need to drop out because we've got this, or we could do this?
Yeah, it's a tough one, really. I think if you're talking about being released from an academy, yeah, a lot of that's down to the individual and whether they have that sort of mindset to be able to, have that, it's just sort of one club and go to another one and sort of maybe if they have to drop down and even enjoy it more. Yeah, I think in terms of that's probably not going to change that much, to be honest. Like going forward, I think that's just at an age where other things happen in your life and you either want to carry on with it or you don't. And I think if there's more out there in terms of making it more fun to even just keep women and men in sport, yeah, I think there's probably more to be done in that sense. But yeah, in terms of academies, I think, when you're sort of released, I don't think there's any sort of support from that club to kind of check in, or a few weeks later, I don't really know. But it's interesting what John said about the trials, because the same year I went to my first Millwall one, I actually went to a Chelsea one as well. And they selected one girl, and they actually split up the groups, and they knew who they wanted to sign. Everyone kind of did a training session. We all kind of went away a bit disheartened, and yeah, they just wanted one girl out of something stupid like X amount of players, which is just insane. But yeah, I think clubs like Millwall and Brentford and Reading are more like, I don't know, for me, there's just more, like when I went to my Millwall trial, it was much better experience. It was more, everyone was treated normal in a sense. So you turned up at Chelsea and it was very like intimidating, you're at Cobham, all these coaches are very professional. No one looks that approachable. And it did feel like a very sort of, oh God, we're doing a passing drill, but it doesn't feel like a passing drill that I do at my training session on a Wednesday night. It felt like just more intense. But yeah, I think there needs to be more done. Sorry, I've just completely gone on a tangent, started talking about trials.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, I think more needs to be done in terms of like trials and not seeing it as a trial and more of like a way to, if I don't get in, how have I learned? And also, what's the other option? What other options do I have? But going back to your question, in terms of opportunities and girls dropping out, yeah, that is a tough one. I think the main one for me is if you do get released, what is that club doing? Say I've just played at a club for 2 years, how they sort of, if that girl's given their all for that club, I think it's only right that after a few weeks or even, 6 months later, they kind of check in and see how that player's getting on, even if they're at a different club, kind of, just to say hi, just, be human about it. That sort of thing would be nice, I think.
Yeah, I think spot on. I think, like you say, that again, sort of linking back to our earlier topic on sort of mental health and that support network. It's something that, like you say, you mentioned there about going to Chelsea and it's quite intense. And I think, like you say, as I can only imagine, like as a young child, that's very daunting, because you think, if that sort of affects your performance and you're going in thinking, God, I've got to get in, I've got to pass, I've got to make it, you could have an absolute nightmare at training. I think that's where sometimes, like you talked about maybe the Readings and the Brentfords, it might be less pressure and more enjoyment. And I think for me, that's what, I've done a little bit of coaching sort of, in the past, and just the emphasis on fun. Like you mentioned, John, talking about making it fun, obviously get the learning in, and then take those experiences to better yourself, and take that forward. I'll let you talk, John, about the trials then, and you wanted to link that in. So whilst on the subject of that, do you want to just discuss that with me?
Yeah, I just wanted to basically confirm what Lenny said about Chelsea. It is pretty intimidating. You do go to Cobham, you do turn up, and it's the big centre. They have it on the big AstroTurf next to where the reserves play, and it is quite intimidating. But one thing, if there's any girls out there watching who have been rejected from trials and they are a decent player, just to know that the players that have released from each age group squad, it may be 3 defenders that they've released. So you may be the best striker around, but they haven't got a place for you. So don't get yourselves down. I'm lucky and I'm privileged to know what Reading and that are looking for, and you really would have to be exceptional for them to take you on if they're not looking for a striker. because they've then got to release one of their other strikers, or they've got to have a defender down. So that's another thing perhaps we can offer people, that, you know, we are in the knowledge of what some of the clubs want. I do talk to the people that run the trials. You know, I talk directly to them. So, but if a player's good enough, I'll still put them forward and I'll say, I'm sending this person. I know you're not looking for them. So that's, again, another little help for us, another good sales point. But yeah, just to any player out there, just because you get rejected at trials, it doesn't mean you're not a good player. Please always stay positive. And it just might be the club's not looking for your position.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's spot on. I think, like you say, what's great is you've got that know-how from sort of your side, and you can, like you say, I think it's just down to, just down to sort of communication. Like you say, you know, you know what clubs want, that position maybe full in terms of what clubs can take on. It's then having that conversation of, right, what do we do next? What do we need to do to get you at another club or to send you to another trial? And like you say, sort of that overall experience as well, like we touched on earlier, you know, just because you've not made it or you've been released doesn't mean that's the end of your career. You know, there's always the opportunity to sort of build and improve and to get where you want to be. I wanted to spend sort of the next 5-10 minutes then, Lenny, talking about obviously your season with Watford so far in the Championship. So obviously, you know, we're sort of coming up to the winter break, 9 games in. What's it been like so far? Because obviously this is your first season with Watford. Would you want to just talk to me sort of about that and the Championship?
Yeah, obviously the club had just been promoted, and for me, as soon as I went there in pre-season, I just felt at home. And I know that's quite cliche when someone signs for a new club, and a lot of people probably think, oh, she has to say that. But compared to the environment where I've been at previously, it was perfect for me, and I didn't know it was going to be like that. I went there, and the girls and the staff were just really, really lovely, and all obviously very good as well at their jobs. So yeah, we had a really tough start. We had played Durham away first, which is, everyone knows in the Championship, that's like one of the toughest fixtures. But we 2-1. Yeah, we had another tough game with Liverpool. I think our first few games were like the top sort of 4 from last season. So yeah, really tough start. Pressure's kind of building, to be fair, around, you know, we've had a few good results, but until then, yeah, it's quite tough. But I think with the group we had, we always knew it was kind of coming. And yeah, for me at clubs before, where you lose a couple of games and the environment just goes, like, completely changes, and everyone's sort of, you know, you're thinking, oh God, don't want to go in on a Tuesday because we just lost. But with this group, it's different. I think we get a different sort of energy, and we kind of, you know, I think for me, sticking together is so key. And a lot of players at other clubs have actually, you know, people, you know, gone, well, we can see how together the whole group is. Even the bench, I think when we got our first win against Lewis, there's a video and you can see all the girls come off the down from the bench when the whistle goes, and everyone's just so happy, and it's all so genuine, which actually isn't very common, sadly. Yeah, I've been at teams where players be on the bench and want the team to lose, which is just crazy as a fan to think about. But it does happen. So yeah, the environment's brilliant. Started to get a few good results, which is really good. Hopefully we can get a few more wins going into the winter break. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And I think, like you say, you know, I think that win, like you mentioned, you know, the togetherness of the team, I think it's important, like you say, because that enables you to sort of kick on, doesn't it, now? And, you know, you're sort of looking at maybe a difficult start, and then you've kind of, you know, you've picked up 5 points now. And it's, like you say, it's good for confidence, and it enables you just to progress then and really push up the league. John, I'll bring you in and sort of let you discuss, you know, from sort of your point of view then. Looking at the Championship, it seems to get massively competitive each year. But what has it been like for you? Because I've noticed for me now, I'm looking at sort of top 5 and thinking, wow. I mean, again, I can only speak from sort of when I watched it every week with Man United back in 2018. And back then, there was nobody that was sort of professional. And now you look and there's so many professional teams. What has it been like sort of from you sort of watching it maybe as a fan?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think what's impressed me the most is the standard has improved so much.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you can go pretty much all the way down, and anybody can, they can beat anybody, on their day. And you've only got to listen to Lenny speak and say how together Watford are, where it probably would be easy for them not to be, if that makes sense. The fact that they are, and that will hold them in really good stead. Just winding that back even a little bit more is when I was coaching, I coached through under 12, under 11 to under 15, and I did say this, and I do mean this humbly. We set the bar in our area, just I think because of the way we coach them, and we did have good players. And when you start winning, other players want to join you. Do you know what I mean? The better players from other teams, and you've got a decision then. Do you bring those better players in and not make it fair for the league sort of thing, or do you stop these girls who want to join you from winning something? Do you know what I mean? It's a very tricky thing, but that's the best team I've ever coached. And the girls we're working with now, some are under 10, some are under 11, and it is outrageous. Their level is much better than what my team were at that age. And you just sort of think, wow, if we can keep hold of these girls, if we can get them into trials, great. But if we can't, if we can keep hold of them, the standard is amazing. What we're doing, we haven't even scratched the tip of the iceberg, as it were. Do you know what I mean? I just cannot imagine how many girls there are in the UK that want to play football or want to be given an opportunity not to play in a boys' team. So that's probably the only thing we might do team-wise is if there's an area we go to and a bunch of girls turn up and they play in a mixed team and there's a close enough league. But it's not something that I've looked at. But seriously, so I'm looking at, you look at the WSL, that's really good, I think Manchester United's got a really good squad, I know poor old Mark Skinner's taken a few tails. It is tricky for him, it's not really a team, and I thought he was brave enough yesterday to make decisions, to make changes and bring a bit more youth in when he didn't have to. He could have played safe to get the win. I thought, and I like that as a coach. I think you have to express and you have to be brave. But so the WSL is a good standard. You look at the Championship, great standard, and I'm sure Watford are going to be flying up that league soon as well. They've got great togetherness. And then I look at the youngsters we deal with and think, wow, what are these girls going to be like when they're 18? Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's this little girl, she's 11. We started to sponsor a few girls as well, to get them, pump them up and push them forward. And there's this little girl, she plays under 11, but they call her the Pocket Rocket. Lenny will probably meet her on Monday. And she can do like 70, 80 kick-ups, and she's 10. And you sort of think, there's probably loads of people in the country that can do that. But that's amazing, honestly. And, we're just getting, at the moment, we're progressing her to shoot with her incorrect foot. Because that's important, I'd rather someone shot with their incorrect foot than cut back and got tackled. It's just the way we are, just try and improve them. But honestly, and I look at the girls at this age and I just think, wow, what they're going to be like in 7 years. I think women's football, if it gets the support that it deserves, could be amazing, honestly. And the England team are already doing pretty well, considering how much the American team get and how much the English team didn't get.
Yeah.
So I think the future's great for women's football, especially if they get the support.
Yeah, absolutely. Which leads me on nicely, actually, Lenny. I want to talk a little bit about playing at Vicarage Road, because I've noticed, some of the Watford games have been at Vicarage Road. How important is that, not only for you as players, but also for fans and attracting new fans and maybe even bringing men's fans in, to watch the women's side?
Yeah, for me, it's been an unbelievable experience. And then to see the fans kind of get involved and just be able to go over to like little girls and even some boys after the game and see them sort of look up to you. It's a bit surreal still. And I think the big thing for me when I kind of signing day and I had a conversation with Clint and he said, don't say anything, but we're going to be playing here for few games this season. I said, no, we're not. You're lying. And he was like, no, but don't tell anyone. Because for me, it's always like a one-off game. It's like women's football weekend. So here you go, play at the stadium, and it's like one game only. But yeah, Watford, you know, we've had 5 games there, and I think potentially another couple in the spring. Not confirmed yet, but yeah, it's just been amazing, and the numbers we've got through the ticket gates has been really good as well. And yeah, scoring there as well was just incredible. I remember driving to the game and thinking, this is our last game at Vicarage Road for a while. I just want to, it'd be great to score, and I did. So yeah, it was amazing, really good. And I think as well for girls watching, for me growing up, I always had this sort of dream to play in a Premier League stadium, which is a bit weird, like, to be honest. Not many girls would sort of think that, but it wasn't a reality for me at the age of 8 for that to happen. But yeah, I've kind of stuck at it, and now I'm doing that. And for girls to be watching us at Vicarage Road and see that as this can happen to me, actually be able to visualize that as a real thing, I think it's amazing, and really, really proud to be a part of that.
Obviously, John, just from your side then, I'm assuming that that's great for you as well, because like you talked about earlier, you know, you can, not only have you got players as role models, but you can sort of say to these players, you know, look at this, there is the opportunity to play in these stadiums. Do you want to just briefly discuss that just before we wrap up, and like you say, just how that can help overall with like recruitment and sort of motivating girls and sort of bringing them together?
Yeah, I think it's all a combination, actually. You know, the fact that you can say, look at Lenny, you know, she's done it. She's played at Vicarage Road. You know, Manchester United have played once. I think they're going to play again this season at Old Trafford. And, you know, there are clubs. You know, Reading, they play at the Majeski. You know, it's amazing, you know, that they can do that. And it's just such a fillip for girls. I mean, obviously, anything that helps us recruit more girls is great for us, and hopefully great for them. But yeah, all these little things, they all help, they all add up, and we're going to start arranging taking some girls from different groups to watch Lenny and the girls play when Watford do, you know, give them some support, give us something back, sort of thing. And yeah, we're looking forward to it, and we're going to be right behind Watford, and we'll probably go to a couple of Reading games as well, you know, obviously trying to support the teams we work with, really. You know, it's all about, you know, showing the girls, you know, nothing better than going to a game. You know, you've got the girls, you've got Lenny coaching them, and then they go and watch her play. It's you know, it's something I'm really excited about.
Fantastic. What I want to do then, just as we're sort of approaching the end of the show then, Lenny, I want to just sort of open it up to you now, just to talk about, obviously you talked about your brother Theo earlier on, and obviously you've mentioned it throughout, you know, various media outlets. Do you just want to talk about that? Because this is something, you know, we really want to sort of help support and get behind. And like I sort of mentioned to John earlier, you know, we will look to obviously get out the GoFundMe page as well, sort of through our social media, and you know, promote that. Do you just want to talk to us a little bit about that story then?
Yeah, sure. So just kind of give it an overview. I think there's a lot of articles out there now which people can kind of read in more detail. But yeah, earlier in the summer this year, my little brother Theo, who was 3 at the time, was diagnosed with leukemia. Obviously, no family should have to go through that, and it was a massive sort of shock. Still really difficult. Yeah, so he's on a 3-year plan. He's doing really, really well. He's amazing. Yeah, but basically, I thought it was really important to kind of talk about it in the sense of raising awareness. In terms of, so obviously leukemia is cancer of the blood, and Theo's had, I think, about 10-ish blood transfusions, and yeah, for me, you know, kind of growing up, and even, you know, months before, I kind of associated a blood donation as like a big sort of emergency. Someone's rushing to hospital after a car accident, needs blood. Like I had no sort of education on what that sort of blood is used for. But obviously Theo's had to have so many, and God forbid where we'd be without people donated blood. So yeah, that was something that I wanted to raise awareness about. And also my mum's got a page on social media, which she was hesitant to do, but then actually thought, you know what, no, I'm going to do it to raise awareness of the signs, especially for young children, because, you know, bruises is quite a big one, and obviously kids fall about, and run around everywhere and kind of pick up bruises all the time. So it's not really a big thing. But yeah, since her doing that, she's actually got a lot of people message her and said, look, my son or daughter's got this, this and this. I'm getting a bit worried. And my mum's kind of gone, look, I'm sure it's nothing, but go and get a blood test. And yeah, I think, you know, that's going to help so many people and hopefully raise more awareness and give people just give people education about it, and also like the blood donating and stuff like that. So yeah, also I did an interview about some of the charities who have really helped us and support families who have to go through this. Things like Momentum, who, you know, they just go, what sort of toy does Theo want? Well, he's done really well at the moment. You know, give us a toy that's like £150, up to £150, and we'll go get it for him. So just little things like that, which kind of like make life a little bit easier at the moment. So yeah, things like that really.
Yeah, and obviously when people do watch this will be going out next week. You know, like you mentioned, obviously blood donations are important, and what we'll do is as well, like I say, we'll tweet out your Just Giving page. I had a look at that myself yesterday, and I think there's a target of £20,000 to sort of be reached. So again, you know, if people can get behind that and donate, please do. You know, very worthy cause, and like you say, it just helps as well, especially for somebody so young. You know, when you mentioned obviously that happened at 3 years old. It's just, you know, it's something that you don't expect. And it's something where, you know, like you say, the more awareness can be raised, I think the better that will be. And like you say, just help other families as well, for people that may be uncertain or not know, to sort of draw on that information that is out there. I've come to the end of the show, so I want to thank you both for joining me. It's been a pleasure, and it's been great to sort of hear, you know, from you, John, for all the great work that's going on with the academy and the opportunities, and obviously Ylenia as well, you know, for coming on and chatting sort of your experience and obviously your links as well. So yeah, that's the end. Thank you as well, and thank you to everybody that will tune in to watch this, and we will see you all very soon. Thank you.
Thanks everybody. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.